Hello, it's Gareth for and on behalf of the iMoot team, I'd like to welcome Ben, who's going to talk about making Moodle click reports in minutes. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate spending your time. I know how much effort goes into making presentations. So, yeah, away you go. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Gareth. Thank you for having this all set to go. So, just to kind of get started here, I'm going to share about making Moodle reports where you're using this plugin called the Configurable Reports block. And I can't take credit for the block. Like a lot of different Moodle plugins, it's amazing what different people are doing in this open source community. So it's really great to see how somebody else has come up with this. And man, I've really latched onto it. So this is me in JPEG form, and I'm kind of a random guy. So if you see me take a squirrel here or there, or often in the chat, that's kind of why. I think I must be a little bit ADD. But please feel free to go find this presentation at Google if you'd like to go there instead. And a little bit about me: I love starting random conversations, cribbage, origami, and making reports that will suit the needs of our staff at our school at Blue Sky in Minnesota. So if you're looking to create a kind of report that's going to be something that's going to serve your admin or your teacher community at your school, or something that you want to help for grading, since we don't have AJAX marking block or the FN marking block currently for updated versions of Moodle, this could be a good way to go for you, and you found the right place. So in this presentation, we're going to take a look at a couple things at how to use a pre-created report. So there's a lot of different reports that can be found in ad hoc reports in Moodle. Specifically, I posted ones to the 2.7 version of Moodle, since that's the version that we're on. And also we'll look at how to create a few basic filters and set permissions so that different people can have exclusive access to reports. So, like I said, I didn't create this plugin. I like it a lot. This other guy who I haven't met, who I think is Spanish, created this, and much thanks to him for doing that. So, part of this presentation really stems from figuring out what data is going to be useful to you. And I'm really great at coming up with different kinds of collections of data and serving them out to teaching staff and administrative staff and different people. But yet, the real trick lies in organizing that data in a way that's going to well serve that community or that niche, so that it'll be useful to them. It'll be something that will help them do a task or help them find what they need. And I've found, especially in my school in Minnesota, my teaching community, that creating a report that doesn't work well for them, it's like extra stuff that somebody doesn't need. So if I try to refine things as much as possible so that it'll be what they need, have less data, if at all possible, so they can just get right to the crux of what they need. Some of you may have used a different plugin called AdMiner, which I love too. This is more of what I would think of as a back-end kind of a tool, something that is great to use if you're an administrator in your Moodle site, but not necessarily something that all teachers and different staff members in different roles can use. So one great thing about configurable reports is they can be filtered, there can be permissions applied. What I love is you can create linked URL strings, basically web links, to use for clickable reports, specifically grading reports. And those unfamiliar with SQL can create reports. During this session, I'll primarily focus on some of those that are created with SQL language, but it is very possible to create other reports as well without it. There are a lot of contributed reports, so I would make sure to check out the creator's GitHub page, as well as the Moodle, the ad-hoc contributed reports page. So one of the big reasons, and the reason I was excited to put on this presentation today, was that I want to help teachers in the effort of streamlining their task of grading so that they can spend less time grading and more time interacting with students so that they can do what they need to do and move on. And maybe they can enjoy grading? I don't know. But at least it'll be something that well serves them and can help improve their workflow. So some examples of different kinds of reports that you could find in AD-HOC or ones that I've created. I've created a few different kinds of teacher grading reports. There's one that I've created that I'll share later in the presentation regarding student activity that I'd like some of your feedback on. And there's a lot of AD-HOC contributed reports, including all site users by course enrollment, student count in each course. These are just a few basic ones, and there are many, many reports you can find. And you can click the links if you look at this PDF presentation later to get there. So what do these look like? In the context of our school, the block that we put on the right-hand side of our essential themed site, we see BS grading. This was kind of a little bit of a joke since our school is called Blue Sky, and students can't see this, so they wouldn't see this block that's titled kind of funny. But administrators and teachers will see a different view based on what permissions they have. And in this view, administrators can see that they can click to manage reports in the block, and teachers or other roles will just see the reports that are available to them. So what does this look like? When you go click to open up a report, it's going to look like this if you're in an admin role. And you can view the report and you can see all the different other tabs that will allow you to do different things like customize the report, change the SQL code for it, apply filters, permissions. Now, being a Moodle admin, I've done a lot of these things. I didn't create the block, so I haven't done all of these yet. I still have yet to plot graphs and use some of the calculations. So if there's somebody else that have done those things and would like to share about that, I would love to hear from you. So here's what it looks like from a teacher perspective. You don't see all those different tabs at the top. You just get right to the report and can see these different results. This is based on a quiz report that I created so that teachers can jump right in and they can click this grade hyperlink and get right to the results of student essay responses that they want to grade. So let's take a look and see what this looks like in the Moodle site. I'm going to jump to share my screen. If somebody can't or this doesn't work for some reason, please let me know. I'm going to share my full screen and jump to a Chrome browser. Just starting up. Thank you all for your patience during little hold up and wait tech time. So in this browser, I have a demo course. And this is one of our courses in our production or live site. I'm going to click on one of these previous reports I created. I just showed you a view of ungraded quizzes. You can see this is one that a test student has submitted just recently. As Tommy Test went in and submitted this. When I click to grade it, it's going to bring us to this view, which is actually one of the plugin dependencies I'll share a little bit later, manual grading by students. But I can see just the essay questions that a student needs graded and not any of the auto-graded questions. So we kind of like this. It's great to be able to just jump into report. Teachers can go, click, and grade what they need to. I also created a grade everything, which hits up all these different modules that our school uses as a form of assessment. So if I click grade everything, you'll see all these different things that Tommy Test has submitted. I'm going to jump back to the presentation so we can get back into there. It appears that I forgot to take out a slide right there. Or I submitted, you know what? It looks like I just uploaded an old version of this. I do apologize, and I'm going to upload the correct file. If you would chat amongst yourselves for just a minute, I do apologize for this error. I thought it was a little bit odd that I had fewer slides than I expected to. I'm going to jump ahead here to where we left off at my cat, who's on my ping pong table. You were sweating. I think all of you should have, if you're staying up for the full 24 hours, should have night sweats or something from staying up so late. I'm not a gamer, so some of you are used to staying up late. Crazy. You're all crazy. But in a good way. So how are we going to utilize this ad hoc report? This is kind of the key thing I wanted to hit up on in this presentation, that not only is it so cool to be able to click to grade reports, create those for teachers or other administrative reports, but once you've installed this plugin, it really doesn't take too much time to just take the report, the SQL code off of this ad hoc site and put it in. So here are just kind of a brief rundown of steps. You want to click to add the block, create a new report, add some basic settings, like you might want to make it a global report if you want it available to everybody, or perhaps change some permissions, add the query, and test the report. So before we jump on to the next spot, I'm going to walk you through just how to do this. It really will take just a couple minutes. So I'm going to jump back to sharing my screen, which I think should take less time this time. Let's watch it go. There we go. So here we are back in this demo course. When I click to manage reports, I can add a report. I'm going to title it something along the lines of what I'm going to pull off of this site. You could surely title it something different. And I could make it a global report. By doing this, it's still only viewable by me until I release it based on permissions to other roles or somebody else. I can click to add this report. Here's where I need to add in some SQL code so that I can create the logic used for this report. Here's where all this logic is stored in this Moodle Docs site. I'm going to grab this for a list of all site users by course enrollment. This is a pretty short one. I can just copy and paste this into the report. I accidentally added an X. Try not to add extra characters or it will goof it up. I don't need to add anything else in this. I can click to save changes. Now, as it said in my report, or my instructions, after adding the code, then we can click to view the report and see our results. Now we're going to see all of the different people that are contained within our site. So this was a kind of a useful little one where you can see any users, any user enrollments in your course based on the course that they're in. So kind of a nice way to figure out what people are in all of your courses. Later on, we can come back to this one, and I can show you how to add filters so that you could filter down just to one course or even a select enrollment in that course. Thank you, Garrett. So, as you may have picked up already, some of the reports contained in the contributed reports will have some strings attached. There may be some dependencies that you may have to add another plugin, or you may have to do a hack or do something to change things a little bit. Or maybe you have to add a filter to get the desired outcome. So basically, make sure that you read the ad hoc description so that you can add any of those kind of dependencies that are necessary. So let's take a look at what some of these dependencies are so that we can make sure that you're well enabled to do what you set out to do with the report. I copied and pasted the query. Is there anything else I have to do? Sometimes. So this is where I said you may need to set up another plugin for it to work properly. So here's one of them with the assignments, and please pop in the chat. I'd be curious to know if any of you guys use the updated assign and have encountered some of the new the row num sort in that. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's basically a sort that's used in the part of the URL string to generate which student you're going to grade when you click to grade an assignment, an assigned module activity from the standard Moodle interface. And this is maybe a little bit techy, but in terms of programming, when using the configurable reports, you're using SQL language to describe where you're getting stuff. In Moodle, it's PHP. So there could be maybe a more efficient PHP way to go about this, and Gareth probably could speak to this better since I'm not as much of a PHP developer. But I could conceive that there'd be a better way to go about working with the row num sort in that context versus in SQL. So for the sake of this report, you either have to go one of two ways to make the results you want display. So, like I said, if you're not familiar with row num, this is what it looks like here. I think it sounds kind of like a funny sort of a thing, but when you click here in the standard Moodle interface, this is where it'll take you to. So I know that I'm gonna get in my soapbox for a second, and I apologize if anybody has a differing opinion, but I would prefer that this not be here. If it were possible to remove this from the core logic and not use row num. I know that there's some different discussion about this, about making sure that blind marking still works correctly. There's a few different ways to go about this. The way that I've set it up using the configurable reports grok for making a click to grade teacher report. So you could either emulate the row numbering in the URL string so that you display that, or you could avoid using that row num with alternative logic. That must have been, so what's the difference between these two? So when you emulate this row num sort, you need to make sure that you're creating the same kind of sort that you're using at that current time with a logged in user when the person who's going to grade, when they go to any assigned module activity, that you're using the same sort as that. So when you click to grade in the configurable reports block, it's going to produce the same students. And here's where I'm not perfect, and I'd really love to get some feedback from any kind of expertise from a SQL programmer, another person who maybe knows this much better than I do. and could say, maybe you could do ranking a little bit differently in the context of the assigned module activities. But the way that I've set it up is that teachers must have things only using the assigned activities, only using the default sort. If not, when clicking to grade, if you sort by a last name or use some other kind of different sort, it would go to another student. Another means of setting up assigned click to grade activities I've shared is by using an alternative logic that doesn't rely on using the row num sort in the URL string. So you don't have to use that. So by removing that dependency in the URL string, I can create a different direct link to grade just using the user ID instead. I know this presents some issues with blind marking. This is not something that our school is concerned about, but I want to be upfront that I know that maybe other schools wouldn't want to use this because of that reason. So that sounds great to be able to set up some kind of different direct link for grading, but I understand kind of like what this is striking back to a conversation that I heard earlier from Kim prior to the session, but maybe it's not as easy for some schools to affect plugin changes, or in this case, with a GitHub suggestion to implement suggested code changes to the core, especially maybe if you're with some Moodle hosts that might be more difficult. In our kind of instance where we can affect changes even though we're third-party hosted, it's possible. I'd be kind of curious to know where the folks involved with updating assigned module activities are and would consider changing the direct link to grading. So that's an avenue that I'm interested in exploring. If any of you know any information about that, I would certainly be very interested. So there is one quiz dependency for the teacher click to grade report that I shared in the 2.7 ad hoc reports. And that one is manual grading by student. I really like this as opposed to there's another kind of report that exists in Core Moodle where if you manual grade, you can grade all of the essay responses for one question. This is kind of the other side of this where instead of doing all students for one question, you're grading all the essay response questions for one student. So that makes it possible to make a direct link to grade one student's work. And this is a little picture of what this looks like with some of the student information fuzzed out. So you can see that this person had essay response to this. If I were to scroll down, then I would see all the essay responses for that student within that same quiz. So, minutes about the default sorting perhaps with assigned activities. What I discovered and what I used when creating the row number ranking for the assigned activity was that the default sort is actually based on user ID and not alphanumeric. I thought that was interesting, but so I used that default sort for row num back here when I was talking about that. If you're interested in that, that's definitely something I'd love to show you later if you want to explore that. So what do we need to do to create a filter in one of these different kinds of reports? This is kind of the quick and dirty sort of a look at how you would do that. Really all you would need to do is add the filter selection. You need to apply a specific kind of SQL language filter code for the filters selections you applied, and then try it out. So here are a couple common types of filters. Courses to filter by courses and enrolled students. What I do want to say about filters too before I continue on here is that while I've shared these common filters, that getting the language we need for this next page is something that I struggled a little bit with finding, and this is something that I may try to post either within this course for the iMoot, Mini Moot, or else another page, or make a suggestion to the dude, the guy who updates configurable reports, so that there can be a little bit more documentation on what specific SQL code to apply for each filter. So this is what it looks like when you apply the different filters. So you can see for this student, I've selected this course and a particular student for this course. So at this point in time in the presentation, I think Maureen said it so beautifully that if you're like me, if you're up late, you can get kind of cranky. I don't know if you all need to do this, but if you need to take a minute and just stretch, please do so. This is my cat Ernie, and I just want to make sure that you all kind of stay engaged live, especially those who are on the 24-hour challenge. Right on, Maureen. So on to the next part, granting permissions. So this is a key aspect that is really significant. So I've created this great click-to-grade teacher report, or I've created an admin report. Maybe I don't want everybody to see it. So it's really great to be able to select roles or different parties, or even individual users have access to these reports. So perhaps the question really is more who I should make these reports available to. It can be so easy as adding a permission type, adding a filter such as a role, and then trying it out. So where you would find this in the context of an admin managing these reports is first you'd click on this Permissions tab, and then you might select, I would suggest to select this option for the role in the current course. I mean, there's a lot of different options that can be valuable. Even the user value field can be really great, because then you can specify an attribute that's specific to a certain user or set of users. In the case of the teacher reports, I select the role editing teacher, so then if I make a global report in the configurable reports block, then it can be available to any of the editing teachers in that course. So that way, if you have team teachers or you have multiple teachers within a course, they can all access these teacher grading reports. So the result of making something exclusive by role is you could make a report that is available just for either a single party or a select role, such as editing teachers or office staff, for instance. So did you know that you blinked these many times this year? I didn't. Just want to keep you on your toes. We're nearing the end of what I have to share in this session. But this is a piece that I'd like to get a little bit more of your feedback on in the scheme of different configurable reports and what kind of information that you're looking for. One of the things that we're definitely looking for in our school is the amount of total time students spend in Moodle. And to kind of get on my soapbox again, with our current SIS, there was some integration that pulled data from our Moodle site. And actually, we love our great integration with our SIS. But as far as student activity, it was just pulling durations of time that students would spend from the point in time they entered a course until they left the course, which, as you all may know, it could be a long time, it could be a short time, and could largely be irrelevant to what the student is actually doing in the course. So my goal is to figure out how much time students are actually doing specific tasks. It could be doing a quiz, it could be completing an assign activity. And we don't want to actually sum up and add all of the times, the durations for those different activities together, because then that could theoretically give us more time spent than an actual day, than 24 hours in a day. So really, we just want to overlap all the different time durations that a student spends and get more of just the length of time that a student spends in a course minus any of the gaps in between. And I think one of you folk might be smarter than me and can think of a different analogy than this. But in the pause between breaths, this is what I came up with as an analogy to say, well, how could you think about this? So I don't really want to know total sum or how high the stack of pancakes is. What I really want to know is just the distance from side to side, the width of all the pancakes, or the length of durations with student activity overlapping, not taking into account gaps. So what I've posted in this course, if you want to take a minute to look at it, is something near the bottom. I'll share the link to this too. Is a forum discussion within the course about this query that I shared. So if you boot up configurable reports, I don't think I set this up with the prefix in there so you could stick it right at configurable reports. It might still be set up for adminer that I was using in the back end. But I would take a look at this, and this is something that I plan to share with the other ad hoc reports, and to try to get an idea of how much time students are spending in their courses, so you're not overestimating what time they're spending. And if you know me or like to get to know me, I love food, and any kind of analogy that has to do with food for me is just kind of fun and greatly somewhat irrelevant. So if I couldn't express this enough, like this quote is saying, I admittedly know that I make mistakes. And really what I want to do is capitalize off them. If I make a mistake, I want to learn from it and figure out what somebody else has to share so they can teach me the right way. And I know all of you out there attending my session are smarter than me and will either have some kind of suggestion about how to do the SQL better, or some suggestion about how you could better set up a click-to-grade report for teachers. Please share with me what kind of thoughts that you have on these things so that it could be something that would not just benefit your school, but benefit the teachers at Blue Sky in Minnesota or in some other community. It's so great to be able to share this with a larger community. So here are different resources that I included. I also share these resources within the course if you go back to the course, along with the presentation slides in PDF format, the right ones. Sorry about that. So at this point, I just want to thank all of the different folks that have been so effective in creating an opportunity to do this, like Wendy, all the different folks like Gareth, and those that have been a part of this mini iMoot or Moodle HQ. Thank you so much. and to my wonderful cat, Ernie, for taking part in this presentation. Please don't hesitate to call or email me if you have some questions about any of these Click to Grade teacher reports that I put together, or some other insight, or if you just want to chat or something. It'd be really great to hear back from you all. What kinds of thoughts or questions do you guys have?
Just while waiting for questions, on behalf of the iMoot team, thank you very much, Ben. Lot to take in there. Looks incredibly powerful and different. That you can really use it to make your site special in terms of you getting the information that you want to get, rather than having a plugin. Well, that fits that size, I must use it that way. So yeah, once again, thank you very much for presenting. I appreciate that the time and effort involved. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Kara. Thank you all for staying up, those in the 24-hour challenge. Amazing. Good question, Sarah. Yes, we do display it across all courses. The way that I've got permissions set up in our site, it actually, if you don't have access to any of the reports, it's not going to display. So if you're an office staff member and you don't have access to any of the reports, or let's say you're a counselor, a social worker, or somebody who doesn't have access to the reports, then it's not something that's cluttering up all the blocks on your right-hand navigation, where we put blocks on the right-hand side of our site. I'm just kind of curious, is there anybody else that's attended this morning or late this night that has been already using the configurable reports block? Fantastic. I'd be curious if you email me back or something, even apart from this, or tweet at me and say what kinds of things that you guys are using for reports. Gotcha, Kim. Yes, Sarah, I would encourage you to check out the forum or advanced forum grading. We had previously used the FN marking block for grading forums, and it was a little bit chaotic to have a few different blocks to both use AJAX marking and FN marking for grading different student assessments. So it's nice to consolidate it to have one place to go in a plugin where teachers could find everything. Oh, you show all that stuff. So you even show a count of the total posts. I'd be curious to see the way that you have yours set up, if you wouldn't mind emailing me the code that you use. One thing that I don't think I hit on in regards to the manual grading by student plugin that's a dependency for our quiz grading is that I can't remember if it was LSU or the originator of that plugin had set it up specifically for blind marking. So initially, it didn't show students' names. So that's something that you'd want to take a look through the thread of discussion that's related to that menu grading by student plugin if you wish to use that, so that if you want to show student names, you could add that back in to the code and be able to see it. Unless you guys have any other thoughts, I'm going to bow out at this point. Thank you all very much for coming and attending, and I hope to catch you around another time. Thanks.